Imagine this. You're in a room full of people, your heart pounding, hands clammy. You try to act normal, but inside a storm rages. What if they judge me? What if I fail? Or maybe it's 2 a.m. and your mind won't stop replaying every mistake, every possible disaster. You tell yourself to stop overthinking, but the thoughts keep coming. Sound familiar? You're not alone. Anxiety affects millions, trapping them in fear and worry. But here's the good news. You can break free. Stay with me, and I'll show you how. The hidden epidemic of anxiety. Anxiety is often called the silent struggle. It doesn't leave visible scars, yet it can be just as crippling as any physical illness. You might appear fine on the outside, going to work, meeting friends, or even laughing at jokes. But inside, it feels like you're walking a tightrope over an abyss of worry and fear. If you've ever felt trapped by racing thoughts, heart-pounding panic, or an overwhelming sense of dread, you are not alone. Anxiety affects over 40 million adults in the US alone, and millions more worldwide. Yet despite being so common, many people suffer in silence, thinking it's just stress, or something they should snap out of. But here's the truth, anxiety isn't just stress, and it's not your fault. It's a complex interplay of brain chemistry, lifestyle, past experiences, and thought patterns. The good news, just as anxiety can be learned and reinforced, it can also be unlearned. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into what anxiety really is, why it happens, and most importantly, how to overcome it. What this video will cover. By the time you finish watching, you'll have a practical toolkit to help you break free from the cycle of anxiety. We'll cover the science behind anxiety, why your brain reacts the way it does, common triggers that fuel anxiety and how to recognize them, proven techniques from psychology, neuroscience, and mindfulness to calm your mind, step-by-step exercises to stop panic attacks, reduce stress, and regain control of your thoughts, long-term strategies to build mental resilience and live a more peaceful life. If you've ever wondered, will I ever be free from this? The answer is yes, and I'll show you how. Why anxiety feels so overwhelming. Before we talk about solutions, let's address a key question. Why does anxiety feel so powerful? Anxiety isn't just a mental experience, it's a full-body reaction. When you feel anxious, your brain sends danger signals to your nervous system, triggering the famous fight-or-flight response. Your body floods with adrenaline, your heart beats faster, your breathing becomes shallow, and your muscles tense. It's your body's way of preparing for danger. The problem? There is no real danger. Your brain is reacting to thoughts as if they were life-threatening situations. This is why anxiety feels so intense. It's not just in your head. It's a full physiological reaction. But here's where it gets even trickier. Your brain learns patterns. Every time you react to anxiety with avoidance, whether it's avoiding social situations, skipping opportunities, or constantly seeking reassurance, you reinforce the idea that these situations are truly dangerous. Over time, this creates an automatic loop. Trigger, anxious thoughts, physical symptoms, avoidance, temporary relief, stronger anxiety. The key to breaking free. Interrupting the cycle, not by ignoring anxiety, but by understanding and rewiring your response to it. Why you should stick around until the end. Overcoming anxiety isn't about getting rid of it forever. Anxiety is a natural human response. It exists to protect us from real danger. The goal is to retrain your brain so that it no longer sees everyday situations as threats. That's why, in this video, we're not just talking about coping, we're talking about long-term transformation. By the end, you'll understand why your brain creates anxiety and how to stop reinforcing it. Learn practical techniques that work in the moment to reduce anxiety and panic. Discover long-term habits that will help you feel calmer, more in control, and free from constant worry. If you've struggled with anxiety for years, or even your entire life, know that change is possible. You just need the right tools.
Are you ready? Let's begin.
What is anxiety? At its core, anxiety is an emotional response to stress, fear, or uncertainty. It is characterized by feelings of unease, worry, and dread, often accompanied by physical symptoms like a racing heart, sweaty palms, and shallow breathing. Everyone experiences anxiety at some point in their lives, whether it's the nerves before a big presentation or the stress of facing an important decision. This is normal anxiety, the kind that helps us stay alert and focused. However, when anxiety becomes frequent, intense, and uncontrollable, it crosses into the realm of anxiety disorders. Anxiety disorders are the most common mental health issues in the US, affecting around 40 million adults every year. They can manifest in a variety of ways, but the underlying experience is always the same, a persistent sense of unease that interferes with daily life. So let's break it down. Normal versus abnormal anxiety. Normal anxiety, short-term, proportional to the situation, e.g., nervousness before a job interview. Chronic anxiety, prolonged, out of proportion to the trigger, and persistent for 6 months or more. Physical symptoms of anxiety, racing heartbeat, tightness in the chest, sweating, trembling, dizziness or lightheadedness. These physical symptoms occur because anxiety triggers the fight or flight response, a natural reaction that prepares your body to face danger. While this response was life-saving when our ancestors faced physical threats like wild animals, it doesn't serve the same purpose in today's world. Yet the body reacts as if every stressful situation is a life-or-death scenario. The science behind anxiety, how your brain reacts. Understanding the biology of anxiety can help you recognize why it feels so overwhelming. Anxiety begins in the brain, primarily in the amygdala, which is the part of the brain responsible for processing emotions. When you encounter something stressful or frightening, the amygdala sends a signal to the hypothalamus, which activates your body's fight-or-flight response. The key hormones involved in this process are adrenaline and cortisol, known as the stress hormones. These chemicals prepare your body to either face the threat or escape from it. Your heart rate increases, your blood pressure rises, and you become hyper-alert. However, in the case of chronic anxiety, your brain becomes hypersensitive to these stress triggers. It constantly perceives situations as threatening, even when they are not. This heightened sensitivity is known as anxiety sensitivity. Essentially, your brain learns to interpret everyday occurrences as potential threats. As a result, when you feel anxious, it's not just your thoughts that are affected, it's your entire body. You might feel like you can't breathe, your chest feels tight, or your stomach is in knots. These physical sensations are all tied to the body's stress response. Types of anxiety disorders. Anxiety is not a one-size-fits-all condition. There are different types of anxiety disorders, each with its own unique features and symptoms. Here are some of the most common ones. Generalized anxiety disorder, GAD. People with GAD experience excessive, uncontrollable worry about a wide range of topics, from work and relationships to health and finances. They often anticipate the worst, even when there's no real reason to worry. This chronic worry can interfere with daily life and cause physical symptoms like fatigue and muscle tension. Panic disorder. Panic disorder is characterized by sudden and unexpected panic attacks, episodes of intense fear that reach a peak within minutes. Panic attacks often come with a range of physical symptoms, including heart palpitations, shortness of breath, chest pain, and dizziness. These attacks can occur without warning and lead to a fear of future attacks, causing people to avoid places or situations where they feel unsafe. Social anxiety disorder. Social anxiety involves an intense fear of being judged or evaluated by others in social situations. It can lead to extreme self-consciousness, avoidance of social gatherings, and physical symptoms like blushing, sweating, and trembling. People with social anxiety often worry about embarrassing themselves or being perceived as awkward or incompetent. Specific phobias. Phobias are intense, irrational fears of specific objects or situations. Common phobias include fear of heights, spiders, flying, or receiving injections. While phobias are specific to certain triggers, the anxiety experienced in response to them can be just as intense as other anxiety disorders. Obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. OCD involves unwanted, intrusive thoughts, obsessions, and repetitive behaviors or mental acts, compulsions, performed to alleviate anxiety. For example, a person might feel the need to wash their hands repeatedly to prevent contamination, even though they know it's irrational. OCD can be exhausting and interfere with daily routines. Anxiety doesn't just impact your mind, it can have far-reaching consequences for your physical, emotional, and social well-being. Physical health. Chronic anxiety can have long-term effects on your body, including heart disease, high blood pressure, insomnia, and digestive problems. The constant state of stress puts a strain on your cardiovascular system and weakens your immune system, making it harder to fight off illness. Mental and emotional health. Anxiety can lead to feelings of isolation, depression, and a general sense of helplessness. Over time, constant worry and fear can erode your self-esteem, leaving you feeling out of control and overwhelmed. Relationships. Anxiety often leads to relationship strain. People with anxiety might avoid social interactions, make irrational decisions based on fear, or become excessively dependent on others for reassurance. This can create friction and misunderstandings in personal relationships. Work and productivity. Anxiety can make it difficult to concentrate, focus, or complete tasks. People with anxiety might find themselves procrastinating or avoiding work due to fear of failure, which can affect their career progression and job satisfaction. The first step, acknowledging anxiety. The first and most crucial step in overcoming anxiety is acknowledging it, recognizing that it's a real, valid experience that deserves attention. Too often, people try to ignore or dismiss their anxiety, but this only makes it worse. The truth is, anxiety is not something you can simply will away. But with the right understanding and techniques, you can retrain your brain and regain control. Now that we've explored what anxiety is, let's dive into the root causes. Understanding where anxiety comes from is the key to understanding how we can manage it. There are a lot of factors at play here, and they're often interconnected. Biological, environmental, and psychological factors can all contribute to the development of anxiety. Let's start with the biological factors. First and foremost, anxiety can run in families. If you have a close relative, like a parent or sibling, who suffers from anxiety, you're at a higher risk of developing it yourself. But it's not just genetics at play here. The chemistry of your brain also plays a huge role. Certain brain chemicals, known as neurotransmitters, help regulate mood and anxiety levels. One of the most important of these is serotonin, which helps control mood, sleep, and appetite. If serotonin levels are too low, it can make you more vulnerable to anxiety. Another key player is GABA, a neurotransmitter that has a calming effect on the brain. If your GABA levels aren't balanced, your brain might have trouble relaxing in stressful situations, which can make you more susceptible to anxiety. The amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing fear, can also become overactive in people with anxiety. When the amygdala is more sensitive, it reacts more intensely to perceived threats, triggering the body's fight-or-flight response even in non-threatening situations. This heightened sensitivity makes anxiety feel more uncontrollable, like your body is constantly on edge, even when there's no immediate danger. Next up, we have environmental factors. Life experiences, especially during childhood, can have a significant impact on the development of anxiety. For example, children who experience trauma, abuse, or neglect are more likely to develop anxiety disorders later in life. These early experiences can create patterns of thinking that reinforce feelings of fear or worry. Even stressful life events as an adult, like a major job loss, the death of a loved one, or financial difficulties, can trigger anxiety. The environment you grow up in can shape the way you perceive the world and respond to stress. In addition to past experiences, we also need to consider the modern world we live in. We are constantly exposed to stress, whether it's from work, social media, or just the general pace of life. This chronic stress can contribute to the development of anxiety, as your body and mind are always on high alert, never fully able to relax. Then there's psychological factors. The way you think can influence how anxious you feel. People with anxiety often have a pattern of negative thinking, which makes it harder to cope with stress. For instance, you might expect the worst-case scenario to happen, or you might feel like you can't handle difficult situations. These negative thought patterns can fuel anxiety, creating a vicious cycle where the more you worry, the more anxious you become. Perfectionism also plays a role here. If you constantly feel like you need to be perfect or that you can't make mistakes, you're more likely to experience anxiety. The pressure to perform flawlessly can create a sense of constant stress and self-doubt, which keeps anxiety levels high. Let's also talk about avoidance. Many people with anxiety develop avoidance behaviors. They steer clear of situations that make them anxious, hoping that by avoiding these triggers, they can reduce their fear. But here's the problem. Avoidance only makes anxiety worse in the long run. When you avoid a situation, your brain never learns that it's safe. Over time, this avoidance reinforces the fear, making it even harder to face those situations in the future. So when it comes to the causes of anxiety, we're looking at a combination of factors. Your biology, your life experiences, and the way you think all contribute to the anxiety you feel today. But the good news is that understanding these factors gives you the power to take action. In the next chapter, we'll begin to explore practical strategies for managing and reducing anxiety. You'll learn ways to retrain your brain, challenge negative thinking, and create healthy coping mechanisms. And even though the causes of anxiety are complex, change is possible. We'll walk through the steps you can take to regain control and live with less fear and worry. Now that we understand the root causes of anxiety, it's time to shift our focus to the strategies that can help manage and reduce it. If you've been struggling with anxiety, you're not alone, and there's a way out. The first step is to acknowledge that you have the power to change how you respond to anxiety, and with the right tools and techniques, you can break the cycle of fear. One of the most effective strategies to manage anxiety is cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. CBT is based on the idea that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all interconnected. When you feel anxious, it's often because of negative thoughts and beliefs you have about yourself or the situation. The goal of CBT is to identify these negative thought patterns and replace them with more realistic, balanced thoughts. For example, let's say you have an upcoming presentation at work, and you're already feeling anxious about it. You might think, "I'm going to mess this up. Everyone will think I'm unprepared and incompetent." With CBT, you can challenge that thought by asking yourself questions like, "What's the evidence for this belief? Have I done well in presentations before? What's the worst that could happen, and how likely is it?" By confronting and reworking your negative thoughts, you can reduce the intensity of your anxiety and start seeing situations more realistically. Another powerful technique is mindfulness. Mindfulness is all about being present in the moment and accepting your thoughts and feelings without judgment. When anxiety strikes, it's easy to get caught in a spiral of overthinking, where your mind races and you start to imagine worst-case scenarios. Mindfulness helps you anchor yourself in the present, making it easier to break free from that cycle. A simple mindfulness practice could be focusing on your breath, taking slow, deep breaths in through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. As you do this, try to notice the sensations in your body, like how your chest expands and contracts with each breath. When your mind starts to wander or you feel anxiety creeping in, gently bring your attention back to your breath. This practice can help you create space between yourself and your anxious thoughts, giving you a sense of control. In addition to mindfulness, relaxation techniques can also be incredibly helpful. One of the most well-known techniques is progressive muscle relaxation. This involves systematically tensing and relaxing different muscle groups in your body, starting with your toes and working your way up to your head. The goal is to become aware of tension in your body and learn how to release it. By doing this, you signal to your body that it's safe to relax, which can help calm the physical symptoms of anxiety. There's also breathing exercises, which are a simple yet effective way to reduce anxiety. One popular method is called diaphragmatic breathing, or deep breathing. It's all about breathing deeply from your diaphragm rather than shallow breaths from your chest. To do this, sit in a comfortable position, place one hand on your chest and the other on your abdomen, and take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. Try to make sure that the hand on your abdomen rises as you breathe in, while the hand on your chest stays still. Slowly exhale through your mouth, allowing your body to relax with each breath. Another important strategy is regular physical activity. Exercise is not only good for your physical health, but also your mental health. When you exercise, your brain releases endorphins, which are natural mood boosters that can help reduce anxiety. Even something as simple as a daily walk, yoga, or stretching can make a big difference in how you feel. Physical activity also helps burn off excess energy, which can reduce the physical symptoms of anxiety, like restlessness or tension. Alongside these techniques, it's important to build a strong support system. Anxiety can often feel isolating, but you don't have to face it alone. Talking to friends, family, or a mental health professional can help you gain perspective and feel more supported. Sometimes, just sharing what you're going through with someone who understands can be a huge relief. And if anxiety becomes overwhelming, seeking professional help through therapy or counseling can provide you with more specialized support. Another aspect of managing anxiety involves lifestyle changes. It's not just about techniques and strategies. It's about creating an environment that supports your mental well-being. For example, getting enough sleep is crucial. Lack of sleep can worsen anxiety, so make sure you're getting 7 to 9 hours of restful sleep every night. Avoiding caffeine or alcohol, both of which can increase anxiety, can also make a big difference. And as we discussed earlier, reducing chronic stress by setting boundaries at work, practicing self-care, and saying no when you need to can help prevent anxiety from taking hold. As we've seen, there's no single solution to anxiety. It's a combination of factors: how you think, how you care for your body, and how you manage your stress levels. The key is to find the strategies that work best for you and incorporate them into your daily routine. Whether it's through CBT, mindfulness, relaxation techniques, or exercise, the more tools you have in your toolkit, the better equipped you'll be to manage anxiety when it arises. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to build resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and continue moving forward, even in the face of anxiety. Building resilience is key to long-term success in managing anxiety, and it can help you approach life with greater confidence and calm. Stay with us as we uncover practical ways to build mental and emotional strength. Now that we've explored strategies for managing anxiety, let's focus on building resilience, the ability to recover and bounce back from setbacks. Resilience isn't something you're born with, and it's not a trait that only a select few people have. It's something that you can build and strengthen over time, and it's one of the most powerful tools you can use to manage anxiety. So what does resilience really mean? At its core, resilience is the ability to adapt to stress, recover from adversity, and keep going even when things are tough. Life will inevitably throw challenges your way, whether it's a difficult situation at work, a personal loss, or the day-to-day stress that we all experience. Resilience helps you face these challenges with greater strength and less emotional turmoil. The first step in building resilience is developing a growth mindset. This means seeing challenges as opportunities to learn and grow, rather than obstacles that hold you back. When you approach life with a growth mindset, you're able to bounce back more quickly from setbacks because you don't see them as failures. Instead, you see them as learning experiences. For example, if you fail at a task or experience a setback, you can ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I improve next time? This shift in perspective allows you to see anxiety-provoking situations through a different lens, making them feel less threatening and more like opportunities to build strength. Another key element of resilience is self-compassion. When you're feeling anxious or stressed, it's easy to be hard on yourself. You might think, I shouldn't feel this way, or I'm weak for feeling anxious. But resilience is about being kind to yourself, especially when things aren't going well. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same understanding and care that you would offer a friend who is struggling. When you practice self-compassion, you give yourself permission to experience emotions without judgment, allowing yourself the space to heal and move forward. Building strong relationships is another pillar of resilience. Humans are social creatures, and having a support system is essential when you're facing anxiety. Whether it's friends, family, or a therapist, strong relationships provide emotional support, perspective, and comfort. When you're feeling overwhelmed, it's important to reach out to people you trust. Sharing your feelings, talking about what's going on, and knowing that someone is there for you can help reduce anxiety and build resilience. Alongside strong relationships, it's important to embrace flexibility. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes things don't go as planned. Resilience means being able to adapt when situations change or when obstacles appear. Instead of focusing on what's out of your control, resilient people focus on what they can do. They find ways to adjust their mindset and actions to navigate the situation rather than becoming stuck in frustration or fear. Next, let's talk about the importance of problem-solving skills in building resilience. When you face a stressful or anxiety-provoking situation, having the ability to break it down into manageable steps can help you feel more in control. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the bigger picture, focus on small, concrete actions that you can take right now. This approach reduces anxiety and helps you feel more confident in your ability to handle challenges. One helpful way to build problem-solving skills is through the practice of cognitive reframing. This involves changing the way you look at a situation, often by finding a more positive or balanced perspective. For example, if you're anxious about an upcoming event, instead of focusing on all the things that could go wrong, try focusing on what could go right. What are the positive aspects of the situation? What are you looking forward to? Shifting your mindset in this way can make challenges seem less daunting. Another way to build resilience is through the practice of setting realistic goals. Anxiety can often arise when we set ourselves up with goals that are too big or unrealistic. It's important to break down larger goals into smaller, more achievable tasks. This allows you to focus on one thing at a time, giving you a sense of accomplishment and progress along the way. Every small success builds your confidence and makes it easier to tackle bigger challenges.